Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. So today it was pouring rain all day long, and so was the day before and the day before that and the day before that. So the entire past week was really rainy, so I have not been able to get into the garden. And so this morning I decided to take my daughter for a field trip to the garden nursery, and we also ended up at another store called Lee Valley. So I'm going to take you over there to show you what I got in the sack. But just in case you want to skip to any of the parts, check out the description and you can skip to the parts that you want to see. So before we begin today's video, I thought you might like to see how the garden's looking right now. So here's how my quick fire standard hydrangea is looking right now, and I think this is I would say it's one of my favorites, and I can't say which is my favorite because I think they're all my favorite. But I think this is almost like the whitest stage that you'll see on the quick fire with the panicles, the white sort of infertile petals, and those balls are the fertile blooms. And I think eventually those fertile blooms will open up and they will look gorgeous, and then they will start to turn pink and so on and so on. So I think I did film all the stages of the quick fire blooms last year, so you can go back to last year's video and watch all of those if you're interested in seeing how they will look like later on the season. But I think right now it is gorgeous, it is stunning, and like I said before, this is probably the best looking thing in my garden right now. And everybody who passes by the house always says they purposely walk by this way just to see this tree. And here's what the fertile flowers will look like. These little small star-like blooms. I think that's most gorgeous. Look at that. And this is the reason why quickfire panicles actually attract pollinators and whatnot. And I think that's what it is. It's those fertile blooms. Very pretty. And here's a little bit of pink on one of the infertile petals. It's a little burnt, probably from the sun. And here is a beautiful view of the banana cream daisies. I think this must be the most beautiful stage on these daisies. This is one of the reasons why these daisies were the plant of the year in one of the years. I forget which year, but this is why they are the most gorgeous of the daisies. And I think this must be one of the most beautiful views right now with those banana cream daisies, the Anna's Magic Ball, as well as the Crimson Cream, Japanese Maples, and the Dwarf Spruce, and the Spiral. I think that's absolutely stunning. For some reason, the bulbous hydrangeas this year, the ones at the front, are a little bit behind the plants in the back. I'm not sure why, but normally they are always the first to bloom. With so much rain that we've been getting lately, I think these alyssum are not liking it all that much. They think they need to be fed soon because they look a little leggy to me. Probably all the rain washed out all the nutrients. But the snow carpet alyssum, the white snow carpet alyssum, is still looking gorgeous. This is the reason why my husband loves it. Look at how beautiful it is. It's like little, it sparkles in the light, right? Even though it's such a cloudy and rainy day, and yet it's still so bright and sparkly. So cute and beautiful too. Very simple looking, but gorgeous nonetheless. Compared to the other bed, I think this little island here, the bulbos are a little bit ahead of the other bulbos in the other bed, right? I think the blooms on here are most gorgeous right now, I think. This is just the stage as they are about to open, and then eventually they'll turn more white. Very, very pretty. And here's the Chelsea Clematis that I have at the front garden right now, and the blooms are a bit more lavender right now, probably because of all the shade and the rain that we've been getting right now. They usually look a little bit more bleached out because it is sitting in full sun, and as you can see, the foliage has a little bit of a burn on it, right? So anyhow, let me go over there and show you what I got from today's shopping trip. So here's what I ended up getting from Lee Valley today. This is one of their catalogs that I picked up on my way out. And here's the bag with all the goodies that I've gotten here. So let's open it now. So here is what I got for myself at Lee Valley. It is the Falco 9 pruner. With all the things that you hear about these pruners, I think they are supposed to be very good. So I've never had one of these, so I can't wait to use it this fall, because every time I use my other pruners to cut back perennials, I always end up getting blisters. So hopefully this will be much better, and I think it's a good treat for myself, right? And I think I deserve it. So hopefully this is going to be the one and only pruner that I will have for the rest of my gardening life. So let's open and show you what it looks like and how it feels. So here's what it looks like. It's got a little snap on and off here that you can turn, lock and unlock. And it is new, so I have to get used to using it. But no, it feels really good on my hand, I think. So hopefully this will be, like I said before, the one and only pruner that I will ever have to buy ever again. So even though it's large size, but I think it fits me perfectly. Anyway, I can't wait to use it now to prune my clematis. So here's another item that I picked up from Lee Valley. It is the holder for the pruner, and it's only for $7. So it's pretty amazing. I think this is supposed to be meant for you to wear it on your belt, maybe. I'm not sure. But this, you can actually create a hook for you to hang it up, right? So I think this is how it's supposed to fit. I think, oh yeah, it does fit perfectly. Isn't that a gorgeous item? I think this must be the absolute best buy for this year, I think, for myself. I think it's a beautiful treat. It's one that was going to be practical as well. See, here's one of the other items that I also got from Lee Valley. So this is a Velcro. I can use this to tie my vining plants, indoor plants, as well as my outdoor plants. And I like that you can cut it to size, right? And also, if you recall, one of the hydrangeas that I created last year, I actually damaged the stem by using one of those twisty tie thingies. So hopefully I can use this and that won't happen again. And then with that, I also got this soft stretch tie. I forget what the price is. Anyway, I may have to find the receipt and put it on the screen for you. But it's supposed to be really soft and stretchy, so you can use it. And like I said, it won't cut through any of the sort of branches or the stems and cause damage, right? So anyhow, now let me show you what I got from Sheridan. So here's the plant, one of the plants that we picked up. This is what my daughter picked out. It's got that velvety texture. It's beautiful. And then that silvery sort of color. I think it's gorgeous. It is the succulent angel wings. I don't think I've ever grown one of these before. 10 to 12 inches tall and 8 to 12 inches wide. It's supposed to be in full sun. And it looks like it's best in container, mixed border, rock garden, drought tolerant, as well as you can plant it indoors as a house plant. So that's awesome. It's only hardy to zone 7. So if I want to keep this outdoor, I may have to take it in and winterize it in our cool room in the basement, right? So anyhow, that's what my daughter picked up, and I think it's gorgeous. And here's the other plant that I picked up from the nursery. It is a variegated geranium. Isn't that gorgeous? I love this blue-green foliage with the white variegation. I think it's absolutely stunning. Just looking at the foliage itself, right? It's so beautiful. It will have a sort of a reddish color blooms on it, but I think the foliage is what actually drew me to the plant. It was regular for $4.99, but I actually paid 50 cents. I know, 50 cents. Now I regret not getting more because there were so many of them there. But anyhow, I don't think I've ever gotten anything for 50 cents before. So I got 3 of those, which I will plant in this container right here. And some of you, I think, mentioned that it was supposed to be helpful at attracting Japanese beetles, right? So I'm hoping that this will be the plant that attracts the beetles and that they would leave my roses and other plants alone. So anyhow, the soil's already prepped. I did it just before now, so I can just start planting right now. And over here, I've got a couple containers. I have this one on this side, and then I have another one on the other side of the garden where I used to plant all the kale. So I harvested everything, and so I also just prepped this planter as well as the other planter. And I've got some zinnia seeds that my sister-in-law gave me. Not all of them are seeds, I think. Some of them are seeds. The other are just pieces that came off with the seeds. So I think I'm just going to sprinkle them down into the soil and hopefully that they will come up. I'm actually not even sure what the variety is, so it'll be a big surprise. But from looking at the bag with some of the old petals, I could see that it's supposed to be like a beautiful pink color, I think, right? So anyway, it'll be a big surprise once they come up. So let me set my camera up and do all of this, and then after planting the seeds and the geranium, I'm going to go to the back and prune down my clematis using the new pruner, the Falco 9 that I just got today. So I'm in the back garden right now, and you can see here, this is a Pilu Clematis, and it's mixed in with the Western Platy Clematis. So just kind of recap to you what type of pruning group it belongs in. It belongs in group B1. Now, sometimes you might see people say group 1, group 2, group 3, or group A, B, C. So it kind of all depends on where you are and what the naming system they use for the pruning groups. So this one you can always tell based on the blooming time. So it blooms first, flushes between May to June, which is on old growth from last year, and then it blooms again in early fall, which is based on a new growth that you will have after the first flush. So you can tell by the lighting that it is the next day. My camera ran out of battery last night, so I couldn't continue filming. So let's talk about this pruning of this group of clematis. So the Western Platy as well as the Pilu, both of them bloom on old wood, which happens around May, June that we saw this year. And the second flush of blooms will happen around September, the end of August for us. So normally I prune it in the spring, and I prune it just by trimming off the dead branches and, branches or vines that might kind of like stick out in different places. and I do that in the spring. And then after the first flush, I prune it down to about a third, or sometimes down to about a half. It kind of depends on what I see when I cut it back to about a third. If I see a lot of dead vines everywhere, I might end up pruning it down so the plant looks a bit nicer. And every 2-3 years, what I normally do is I prune it all the way down to about 2/3. So and how I prune will just kind of depends on how the plant looks. I just want everything to look nice and tidy and neat, right? But any heavy pruning, you should do that right now, because like I said, whatever that comes up now will be the new growth for the September flush, and then whatever you leave on from the September flush will be the old blooms that will come next spring, right? So that's how I would normally do it with this type. So let's start pruning back this Pilu and Western Platy Clematis. So here's how the Pilu and Western Platy Clematis looks like after I prune it back by about a third. Now, it is kind of busy and messy looking around here, right? So technically you could stop here and let it push out new growth and bloom for you up here in the fall, right? But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it down by about 2/3 and let it flush out new growth. Now it might not bloom for me very well in September, which is okay, but it will be a better, cleaner looking vine, and also it'll be a much more robust plant come next spring. Okay, so I started cutting back, and this is what I see behind all that fresh growth. Look at that. Isn't that, ugh. So, you know, I think I'm going to cut it all the way near the bottom and let it flush out new growth, right? So, yeah, so sometimes you don't know what you're gonna end up finding when you prune these things back. But because it's looking like this is not what I want to see right now. So I think I'm going to cut it, like I said, all the way to the bottom and let it flush out new growth from the bottom up. So this is what the clematis looks like now. Oh, I feel really sad. But you know what? I had to do it because the growth in the back was hidden from sunlight. So it's pretty much all dead. And what the green that you see is all the stuff on the outside. So by doing this, I will rejuvenate the whole entire plant. And it will take a long time to push out new growth. But I think in a few weeks' time, you'll see new growth, because I'm checking on the stems here. You can see that they all have, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see that they all have green on them, right? So that means they are still alive, but it'll just be the new growth. Now, with all the new growth, I might get a little bit of bloom in the fall. I may not, but that's okay. I just want the plant to be healthy for next year. Now, this is the reason why every few years you're supposed to cut your clematis all the way down like this, but do it in the spring, not now. So do what I recommend, not what I say. But anyway, I had to do it now because of all the old growth in the back that was dying. But normally I don't do it like this at this time of the year. So because I cut away so much of the vine that it has to push out so much new growth, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it with the eggshell like I did in the spring, and I'm also going to feed it with the rose food so that it can start to push out new growth in the next few weeks or so. So right now I'm at the front of the garden, and this is the Chelsea clematis, and this one also blooms on new wood. So in the spring I prune it down to the sort of healthiest pair of flower buds, and I cut away everything else. And I think that was about 6 or 8 inches just above the ground. And so all of this that you see here is all new growth that has put on since then. And with this clematis that blooms in new wood, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and deadhead all of the seed pods or seed heads because I want it to continue to put out new growth and new blooms, because like I said, it blooms in new wood, right? So if I leave the seed heads on, it will continue to use that energy. So that energy, if I cut the seed heads off, the energy will go into producing new plants and not the actual seeds themselves. While we're here, I'm also going to feed my dwarf boomerang lilacs, because it did finish its first flush and I actually totally forgot about feeding it. So I'm going to do that now before it's too late. So anyhow, I'm gonna go clean up this mess, and before I go, I'm just gonna quickly show you how the back garden is looking right now. I think the rain that we have been getting is giving it so much more life. Everything is looking really, really lush and really healthy. And you can see that the Invincible Wee White is like almost done with its pink stage. There's a hint of pink on it, but it's mostly white. Here's my blue jangles. I think it's doing beautiful right now. And our soil is naturally slightly alkaline, so it's supposed to be naturally pink. But because I fed it with a little bit of used coffee ground as well as garden sulfur, it's putting on a little bit of a lavender hue to it, right? Very, very beautiful. This other blue jangles here, it's a little bit behind the other plant. So, but there's tons and tons of blooms on here, so it's beautiful. And this firelight here that has a little bit of chlorosis, I did feed it with garden sulfur as well as used coffee ground, and I think it's looking a little bit better. So, but it's starting to put out more blooms though, which is great. And just as soon as my Japonica Europa Astilbe is done blooming, my little vision of pink Astilbe starts to bloom as well. I am loving it. And with this combination of the bobo in front and then the Astilbe in the back, as well as the twist and shout, I think that looks really, really gorgeous. And you can see my red elf coreopsis is starting to bloom. And next to the little quickfire blooms, I think it looks really, really gorgeous. And the little quickfire blooms is starting to get a little bit of pink on the infertile blooms. Do you see that? I think it's starting to look really, really pretty. And here's the planter with the Bobo standard tree in the middle. It's starting to bloom, so I think that's gonna look really, really gorgeous. So anyhow, I think I'm gonna stop the video here. So I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care, and I will see you on the next video. Bye bye for now.